Visa is one of the largest financial institutions in the world, with 26,500 employees and an annual revenue of $29 billion. Al Kelly is the executive chairman of Visa, and for 7 years he was its CEO, growing profits at the company by huge margins. Before working at Visa, he held key positions at companies like American Express, Pepsi Cola, the Super Bowl, and the White House. Kelly is also a strong Catholic and holds a position on the board of the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation, a charity started by the Archdiocese of New York to provide for those most in need. The foundation has a fund of $4 billion. Kelly is also a member of the Council for Inclusive Capitalism with the Vatican, a group that promotes moral and socially responsible business practices as a result of a call from Pope Francis. To find out more about his strong faith and what drives him, I've come to New York City and to the Visa headquarters to meet Al Kelly. Al Kelly, it's a pleasure to meet you and thank you so much for doing this interview.
Delighted to be with you, Colm.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
We are sitting here in the Visa Corporation in the middle of Manhattan, New York City, but before we begin the interview we have to get the Irish connection out of the way, because a name like Kelly, it's County Cork you're from originally, way back?
Actually, my mother's maiden name is O'Neill, and her father was one of 15. And it's really the O'Neill side that goes back to County Cork. On the Kelly side, we're actually not quite sure because my dad was third or fourth generation here in the U.S., but my mother was second. Her father came over when he was about 19 or 20, along with 3 or 4 other brothers, and a number of them fought in the World War. So
wow, that's incredible. Have you gone back before to look at some ancestral sites or try and trace?
Yeah, it's something that I'd love to do at some point. I just haven't had the time to do it. Maybe in my next chapter that I'll spend some time trying to figure that out.
Al, you have made it to the pinnacle of success in the business world here in the United States. You're the executive chairman now of Visa. You were the CEO for 8 years. Revenue grew by, I think it was 90%, 26,500 employees. You're paid tens of millions of dollars a year. But what makes Al Kelly happy?
Family and friends. And in short, that's really what it's all about. And, I love my association with Visa. It was the honor of a lifetime to be the CEO of such a great global company. But Colm, I have my weekends back because I don't have to read 300 emails that I didn't get to during the week. And
do you miss it though? Do you miss being the CEO?
It's only been 3 months. I don't. This is something that I thought I drove this decision. I thought long and hard about it, and it just felt like all the planets were aligning. I just had, in the last year, I've had my first 2 grandchildren. So I think it's just time, which is exciting. It's a whole new chapter, which is awesome.
What's it like being, you've had all these fancy titles, but now grandfather is a new title.
Pop. It's awesome. And, people who were grandparents before me talked about how great it is, and it really is terrific. Not only to see the little ones, but to see your own children becoming parents. It's pretty cool.
And speaking of family, if we go back and we time travel to, you were born in Bronxville?
I was born in Bronxville, but quickly my brother, I'm the oldest of 7, my brother Bill, who's 15 months younger than I am, right before he was born, my parents moved to Yonkers, the Crestwood section of Yonkers, and that's where we grew up. We used to play stickball out in the driveway, have basketball tournaments at different homes and stuff. It was great.
And Al, what were you interested in as a young guy growing up? What was your passion or your flair in life?
Well, I guess educationally, I was very taken with mathematics, probably more so than any other subject. And I've always liked numbers. I've liked analysis. I think numbers are the key to, and data are key unlocks of lots of insights in life, and the magic is finding a new insight.
When you were a young guy, were you looking to the future thinking, ooh, this is the job that I want to do, or I want to get into this area?
No, I wasn't one of those. I wasn't one of those. I was never kind of a dreamer about myself and my career. I always kind of had a philosophy, though, that I was going to try to outwork everybody. I'm very competitive, being competitive, and I'm extraordinarily curious. And it's one of the things I've preached here at Visa, that I think we should all be striving to learn something new every day. And even as the CEO, I don't have to learn from people senior to me. I can learn from people quite junior to me who have a different perspective or a different insight on something. So the reality is that I think the combination of working hard, building good relationships, and being super curious is a great formula for advancing. And I've been blessed that I've never really had to look for a job per se. Anytime I made a switch, it was usually situational or caused by a specific event. Life's a lot about timing and a lot about good fortune, and I never lose sight of the fact that I've been fortunate as well as working hard and having good relationships.
Right place at the right time.
Often that's the case.
And the right place at the right time brought you to incredible companies like Pepsi Cola, American Express, the Super Bowl, and the White House. You worked under Ronald Reagan at the White House. What was your role there?
Well, in 1984, when President Reagan won re-election, and I was offered the job to be the head of computer science, basically, and it was a fantastic opportunity. And it was while I was there that we switched from word processing machines to IBM PCs, and the email system took off during that time. For a young guy, it was not only a cool experience, and I've always had a bit of interest in politics, but it was also very formative from a leadership perspective, because I was managing a team of about 100 people. Some of them were political appointees, some of them were civil servants. I think the greatest opportunity that it was for me was how formative it was in developing my leadership.
I saw a great talk you gave once, and I think it was students you were talking to, and you were talking about the 3 C's to success. As you just mentioned, having a curiosity about everything in the world. The other one was communication and courage, standing up for what you believe in. But let's talk about the 4th C in your life, Catholicism, your Catholic faith. Something that has always been important to you?
For as far back as I can remember, both my parents were, quite committed and dedicated Catholics, and kind of instilled it in us. I went to, I remember going to church at an early age. I went to our local Catholic grammar school. I was an altar server from 4th grade to 8th grade, back when, it was very serious. I mean, now it seems, as I watch young people on the altar at Mass, it seems much more casual now. But we were drilled.
You knew your Latin back then?
I just escaped the Latin.
Oh, you just
piece.
escaped it, okay.
But that helped, further strengthen my faith. And, I don't wear it on my sleeve, but it's important. It's important to me. And, I continue to this day to do a lot of work for the church in numerous ways.
Is it a difficult thing to be a hugely successful businessman and a good practicing Catholic as well? Because I'm sure there are some times to move ahead in business, to get to the top of a company like Visa, maybe do you have to do things that clash with your beliefs or your Catholic faith, or because it's no easy task to get to the position that you've got to?
Yeah, I think you can compartmentalize a bit parts of your life. I mean, I think I can be a good Catholic and at the same time be a hopefully smart and pragmatic leader of a company. As it relates to my Catholic faith, I answer to the Lord, and as the time I was CEO of Visa, I answered to shareholders and other key constituents. And I think that in fact, I know I have my faith to lean back on, and it's helpful in tough times to have a chat with the Lord. And
have you done that before, Al? Before big business decisions, or have you sat down and prayed about it?
Oh, sure. It's not unusual for me at all. To say, I hope I'm doing the right thing. It's just an extra sense of strength you get from something like that. I'm not saying you need it to be. I don't know that you need to have faith to be a good executive. I think it's a bonus if you do. It's just another outlet. It's another way for you another prism through which you can think about your decision making. And I, for one, find it valuable.
But for someone like you, Al, who kind of has it all in this life, why do you need religion?
I don't believe I have it all, and had my own hardships in my life. I don't talk about them often, but going back to the fifth in our family killed in an automobile accident when she was 16 and I was 20.
Oh, my goodness.
Again, not something that I talk a lot about, but I'm like any other human being. My success has no influence on what happens in my life.
In life, yeah.
It just doesn't. I think that in the Catholic Church has its great fair share of extremely philanthropic people who have done so much in mostly quiet ways to help others.
When we look at the Bible, we see Jesus spoke to the poor. He spoke about the poor. He denounced the moneylenders, and he said it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a wealthy man to get to heaven. When we talk about that obligation of people who have been successful in life, helping others and giving back, do you feel that as well, that obligation to help others through your charity work and philanthropy?
Well, both my wife Peggy and I came from very little. We're both products of very typical, prototypical middle class families, and we definitely believe that through a combination of what we were talking about earlier, hard work and good fortune, that we've been blessed, and we basically a long time ago decided there were three things. There's lots of things you can get involved with philanthropically, and we've kind of I believe that it's better to focus. So we're basically focused on three things, which are education, the Catholic Church, and healthcare. We feel good about it. It gives me joy to be able to help others. It gives us not only Peggy and I, it gives our family, our kids, because we involve our kids in it as well. It gives all of us joy to be able to help others.
And I know you've become good friends with Cardinal Timothy Dolan here in New York City, and he's approached you a number of times to look after the organising of the papal trip when Pope Francis came here in 2015.
Correct.
And then he asked you to be on the board of the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation. He's a hard man to say no to, isn't he?
I've had the good fortune of introducing him many times, Colm, at different things, and I always emphasize to the audience that he's, at his core, he is a world-class priest. He and person, and yes, he's had the ability, because of his skills, to move up and be one of the 100 and something people with a red hat these days, which is an incredible honor. But I'm on the finance council of the Archdiocese. I've been on the board of the seminary of the Archdiocese for years. I chaired the papal visit, and yes, back in 2018. He not only asked me to be on the board, he specifically asked me to become chair of the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation, which I've been doing for the last 5 years. It's a fantastic organization. We have about just under $4 billion of assets. We don't raise money. The money came about from
the sale of that insurance company, was it?
Yeah, a Medicare company. While it's not an endowment per se, we as a board treat it as an endowment, so we give away about 5% of the money, $150 to $175 million a year. We're restricted to New York State, so a state's a big part, but it's not the entire country, and we give to largely every conceivable person who has some challenges in their life. So it could be unwed mothers, it could be orphaned children. It could be formerly incarcerated people who are trying to get their life back in order after spending some time in prison. It's immigrants who are trying to figure out how to work the system. It's
not just Catholics, I believe.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's we give money to people of all faiths.
We filmed before up at the Elizabeth Seton Children's Hospital, and they have benefited from the Mother Cabrini Foundation and just the incredible work that they're doing for children with the most severe special needs,
Who have no other place to go.
No other place to go at all.
Yeah, I've been familiar with the Elizabeth Seton and the work they've done for probably 30 years now, and it's amazing. Talk about doing the work of the Lord. It's amazing.
I know our time is very limited, but to touch on briefly, you've just flown back from Rome. You were at the Vatican, you met the Holy Father. Tell me about this group that you were involved in at the Vatican. It's to promote...
It was a meeting focused on how, back to one of our questions about what drives people and who are the people of faith. All of these people were there because they wanted to exchange ideas on how to help more people, have more people included in the mainstream of life. And so my role in the meeting was to give a keynote address on financial inclusion. Unfortunately, there's somewhere between 2 and 2.2 billion people on the face of the earth, so over a quarter of the people on the face of the earth who are either completely outside the financial mainstream or underserved by it. I mean, imagine these are people who in some cases don't know what money is, period. They have no idea of what concepts of a debit card
or a bank account,
or forget credit or insurance, and would have no idea how to get them. Many couldn't even tell you what a bank is.
Pope Francis went to South Sudan, this country where just a couple of % of the population have a bank account.
And that's not terribly unusual. I'm going to Morocco and Ethiopia next week. I leave Saturday evening. And in the briefing I had earlier today, 94% of the spending in both countries is cash. So, there are a lot of countries where we're behind in terms of including people. By the way, and in developed countries like Ireland, where you hail from, or the United States, there are still, quite a few pockets in virtually every country where there are, still underserved people. And then obviously there are in some of the very underdeveloped countries. It's very prevalent that the large majority of the people are underserved.
So this is all about the social responsibility of large global companies.
Exactly. And we talked about, companies having foundations, which we did not have at Visa. And we were fortunate to have had an investment we made back in 2000. Well, made it, I think, in 2014. A company went public in 2017. We made a couple $100 million, and I suggested we put it into an account and start a foundation. And so today we have a foundation at Visa that's almost $400 million, and we have numerous focuses in that foundation, but the primary focus is to help small and micro businesses, particularly with an emphasis on women-owned businesses, rise up. And different leaders were talking about different ways they use their foundations. And in general, it was meant to be a forum for spurring and sharing ideas on how those that have been more fortunate, those that are at the top of big companies, in this particular case in South America, can help others. And it was inspirational to see these leaders all kind of park their ego at the door and say, what can we do for other people?
How was your interaction with Pope Francis?
Was able to greet him. I actually reminded him that we had met back in 2015. I showed him a picture of the two of us when he arrived at the 9/11 site and memorial, which was quite a poignant visit for him. I mean, I rode up on the elevator with him at the end of that particular stop in his day and a half in New York, and he was, quite blown away. I would say he's would not be unfair to say about how it reminds you of the magnitude of what happened on 9/11 in 2001. And it's very hard to leave that site and go through that museum without it really hitting you straight in the face of what a horrific day it was. And you could see that, the Holy Father's a human being like I am, like you are, and I think it was emotional for him, I think.
And he's so good at picking up on the suffering of people.
Yes.
And those who are really in pain. Finally, Al Kelly, 65 years young.
Very.
How do you feel in yourself?
I feel great. I try to take care of myself, and I feel terrific. I don't feel 65. I mean, the
what
calendar tells me that. Oh, I feel like
it's a glitch.
50.
Yeah, it's
like
a glitch
that,
in the numbers.
I'm not going to retire to nothing. I've got another chapter or two in me.
What's next? What would you love to do
Well,
next?
I think it would be a combination, probably a portfolio of things, Colm. I think aligning with a private equity firm. I would like to do some teaching at the university level. When I did my MBA, I did it at night, and I taught undergraduate computer science courses during the day, and I loved that. I love working with young people. I think I have a knack for taking complex situations and concepts and breaking them down into digestible pieces and be able to explain them to people, because that's kind of the way I've learned, and I think it works for many other people. So I'd like to teach a couple of days a month. I don't want to correct papers, but I'd like to impart wisdom. And then I want to spend a little more time on some of the things that matter to me philanthropically.
Okay.
And then spend more time with my family, back to your very first, with my grandkids and growing family. And, back to your question of what brings me joy, that brings me joy. So I want to spend more time with them as well.
They're all healthy and happy?
All great.
Thank God. Al Kelly, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I know you're extremely busy, and we've been trying to set this up for a while, so thank you for your time.
Colm, a pleasure. Thank you. Great to be with you. Thank you. Thank you.
That was a good rehearsal, Al. We'll record that now when you're ready. You guys ready to roll?